was no doubt his biggest moment.
Well, it is a huge moment walking out behind the king of men's tennis, but interesting that with that car accident, didn't touch a tennis racket for 2 years. That's mind-blowing.
And you know, the level of his play, Mark, he's played futures and challenges mostly in Central Asia. So
right.
To come and grab one of the Asian wildcards in the first Grand Slam, and a momentous occasion.
It is. It's huge for him. We were just looking through some of his bio, and you know, probably his main activity against top quality players is through Davis Cup, representing Uzbekistan. And, very at home on the grass. Obviously here he's held a title here as well. It's just that one hurdle being the French Open, but he's brought up on the clay courts, and you know, I'm sure it won't be too long before he actually snares that crown.
He rated the victory at Flushing Meadow against Andre Agassi as his greatest moment in Grand Slam tennis. He's the great man in New York. And Jake Gardner from the United States, the chair umpire.
What an easy job it must be for some of these umpires when they come out to call Roger Federer's match. They know they're not going to, if they make one slightest mistake, they're not going to, you know, have him chew them out at all. It must be a very relaxed exercise being in the central umpire position.
Probably not going to impact the result here. I'm not trying to put the mockers on Dennis Istomin, but if you're a betting man, I'm not sure you'd be able to back Roger Federer. I don't think the bookmakers will accept anything. But he's a pleasure to watch. So often you see that big names can suffer ill fate in the opening round of a Grand Slam. I'm not saying that that's awaiting Roger Federer, but we've seen it many times.
Well, I think maybe in the early stages of Roger's career, as he was heading towards the pinnacle of the sport, that he maybe suffered a few of those defeats along the way. Where a few seasons ago at Wimbledon, after having beaten Pete Sampras, came back the next year and was knocked out first round out on centre court, and you know, it's just part of his makeup now, is that, you know, it's very rare for him to go out to a lesser ranked player. It might be to someone in the top 10 or top 20, but it's very rare to see him lose to someone who's perhaps a wild card, or, you know, anywhere between 50 to 100 on the rankings. And I think that's a testament to his professionalism.
Also a testament to the way he's developed, because as a junior he was the #1 junior in 1998, won Wimbledon. He's one of only, what, 4 players to have won Wimbledon juniors and the men's title. The others being Cash Edberg in that group. But he was ill-tempered when he was younger, Roger Federer.
It's hard to believe.
He had a self-destruct button.
Yep.
He's showing no signs of that in his mature age. Not that he's that old, but he's achieved so much. 6 Grand Slams, 5 in the past 8 he's competed in. And there's Tony Roach. You know him well, Mark. He's worked, in fact, they're at Tony's place with some of the young hopefuls. Sanya Mirza, the young Indian, was hitting up with Roger Federer, as well as Sophie Ferguson and some of the other players that Tony works with in Sydney at his home.
Yeah, Roger came down just before Christmas and spent some days fine-tuning his game before heading back to the tournament in Doha. And what a wonderful opportunity, especially for Australians. You know, Sophie Ferguson, as you mentioned, just to be around the guy, and it's you know, what a better person to learn from. Not only from learning from Tony Roach, but also someone like Roger Federer.
Well, the reports were that Tony Roach was on the court for 6 and 7 hours a day, so he's still a very fit man, very committed too. Remember, he had to be coaxed out of retirement by Roger Federer. He was on his doorstep for a couple of years before he accepted the plum job.
Bit of arm twisting going on there.
It's all about settling the nerves for Dennis Istomin. I'm sure there's going to be some nerves for Roger Federer, but he said consistently he likes the mantle of favouritism. It sits well with his character. It means the other players have to come out and guess what he's doing.
Well, he's been in this scenario many times. I was just watching Dennis warm up here, and it's you know, he doesn't look like he has any kinks in his game. He's, you know, he's quite a tall, lanky lad. Nice smooth service action. Hits the ball solidly from the forehand wing and the backhand side. But it's really the start. You can see him here probably just trying to calm himself, picture all the positive vibes about getting off to a good start. I think that's important when, you know, the youngsters that are new playing great players up the opposite end, and especially in a Grand Slam, if they can get off to a good start, it just helps settle them into the match and gives it obviously an opportunity to you know, to play with the best player in men's tennis.
First set, Roger Federer.
Opening match for Roger Federer, serving against Denis Istomin of Uzbekistan. Just wide. You see that right ankle support on the leg of Roger Federer. Injured himself in October last year whilst practicing, and certainly hampered his run to the Masters Series final. Albeit he was 2 sets to love up against David Nalbandian and played out a classic there in Shanghai.
Oh, beautiful action there, straight down the tee. Istomin not even near it.
Well, having seen him in that Asian final last year against Udumshok, I can tell you Denis Istomin, if he gets his forehand going, it is a reasonable weapon.
Oh, that was a well-played point there. Gasping for air a little bit. Ooh. Made Roger Federer run, make an error off the forehand side there.
Good kick on the second serve. And after a little bit of a struggle, Federer holds.
Well, what a way to start his first game. Nice serve out wide there.
Before the tournament, Federer was the shortest price favourite in Australian Open history, with the withdrawals of Rafael Nadal, Andre Agassi. Of course, the defending champion Marat Safin. 202 kilometres down the tee for Istomin. Not often you see Federer not being able to put a blade on the ball. Good positive start, Mark.
It is. Very impressed with the way that he's handling himself out there. I mean, basically, he's got to come out here, try and settle in as quickly as possible, and he's got to have that belief that he can stay with Roger Federer. That's a big serve there. Nice kick it down the tee.
Service held. A loss of just 1 point, 1-1 first set.
I mean, if there's ever a time that Istomin would want to play Federer, it would have to be in the early stages of a tournament such as this.
Of course, Federer suffered a defeat at the exhibition event at Kooyong last week, beaten by the former world number 2 Tommy Haas. Talk about forehands, just preparation and the fact that he takes it so early and creates so much angle. It's a great weapon for Roger Federer. Easy put away off the volley. Federer holds to love and leads 2-1 first set.
Love 15.
Beautiful movement there by Federer. Saw that it was a handy return and just quickly 2 or 3 steps, just putting the pressure on Istomin immediately.
A couple of unforced errors, and suddenly love 40 in a twinkling. Roger Federer 3 break points. Remember, this first Grand Slam event for Istomin. He's never previously attempted to qualify for a Grand Slam as a junior or senior. Very nearly made it.
15.
Good tactics following a big first serve to the net. Still 2 break points.
Oh, that was just badly executed. You can see there, he got the short reply, was hesitated and just overcooked the drop shot there. Obviously, that was mid-court, giving too much time for Federer. Finds too much court. And he's got to quickly now bounce back, because quite often when you make an error, for the inexperienced players, when they make an error like that, playing a drop shot that looked quite bad, they start to get quite rattled.
Federer only beaten 4 times last year. Marat Safin semi-finals of this tournament. Richard Gasquet beat him in Monte Carlo on clay leading up to the French Open. Had his chance in the semi-finals of the French, being beaten by Nadal in 4 sets, and of course that 5-set encounter where he led 2 sets to love against Nalbandian in Shanghai at the Masters Series Cup final.
You'd take that year of tennis, wouldn't you?
I'd take that about that month of tennis. It'd be great. Well, Mark, obviously you've seen a little bit of Dennis Istomin because Federer is just feeding the backhand, not going anywhere near the big forehand of the 19-year-old. So he's done his homework.
A bit of a chance there at 30-all. His return was deep enough. He had Federer moving back. Just tried to cut it too cute there with that backhand.
And there it is. He strokes the forehand volley into the open court. Hold serve confirms the service break and leads 4-1 first set. Well, Roger Federer's followed the same path as last year. He won in Doha in 2005. This year he beat Gaël Monfils, the talented young Frenchman. But it's now up to the youngster from Uzbekistan, serving 1-4 in the first set.
He just does it with ease. What I admire about Roger Federer, watching him play, is that doesn't ever seem to be rushed when he's playing these shots, or if he starts to generate some pace. It's not like he overdoes anything. You'll find a lot of the players probably sitting down in the back in the locker room, just watching with great admiration. What do we do if we have to play him? How do we beat him?
15.
Obviously could see there, Istomin, that Federer was trying to move around, hit a forehand. Slid that one down the tee.
Next person.
Oh, good volley. Anticipated it cross court.
30.
Just right on top of the net there, Istomin, for this forehand volley. Very close there. So for Roger Federer, maybe keep in mind when Istomin comes in, the lob's an option.
40.
Going for placement there, 188 kilometres an hour down the tee. Just scraping the edge of the line. 2 game points. Let's see how much pressure Federer put on Istomin with the return of serve there. Just climbing all over that. 2-game point suddenly becomes deuce for Istomin. Things tighten up a little bit. Already a service break to Federer. He gains 2. Teenager can almost kiss the first set goodbye. Look at that.
Tremendous.
Oh.
Handy first serve out wide, but it's that wide forehand that Federer does a lot of damage with.
That's a very decent backhand of the high part of the net. See, getting down low. He's a tall man, 6'3". Dennis Istomin pulls it back to deuce.
Well done. That should be a good boost for the confidence there. Saving break point with a big forehand and a nice little serve volley there.
So good hold after saving break point. Istomin digs in deep. But Federer still with the break and a 4-2 lead. He's not unlike Max Murney in his movement, Dennis Istomin. Good volley.
Solid volley, a big, maybe Max continually charges the net.
Is that why they call him the Beast?
You're supposed to raise your voice when you say the beast.
And I know you've spoken to Tony Roach about what he's worked on with Roger Federer, but I think the thing that springs to mind for me is that they haven't tried to change his game that much, but his net play has just steadily improved under the Roach influence.
15.
Well, I think he's also explained to Roger that the slice backhand, the chip backhand, which was one of the big strengths for Tony Roach, just to play it. You could float it, you jag it short. It's almost like it acts as an enticement for the other players to come forward. I mean, Roger Federer has magnificent passing shots anyway, so instead of engaging in long rallies, just to throw the different pace, bring the guys into an area that they're not accustomed to.
We know that Federer likes to target at the net, and that probably is an area that has been well on the mind of Tony Roach. But steady as she comes, the approach with the world #1, 2-game points. Aided by the net cord.
Well, he's quite fortunate here, clipping the net. Seen a lot of those balls even yesterday keep going along.
With the angle with the forehand, just uses the pace of his opponent so well, Roger Federer. Holds and also holds a 5-2 lead in the opening set. Well, he's got almost Inspector Gadget-like arms at the net. They just seem to extend.
He's fortunate there wasn't a cleanly struck volley. It'll work. Ooh, that was unlucky.
Oh, that's the best rally of the match. Angle to angle, touch to touch. Draws applause from the coach, and the fans love it.
Well, you can see here, this is the short backhand that I think that Roger Federer plays on a few occasions now.
Well, he did well to dig the half volley out and assist him in as the return of serve was ripped back.
Just taking a second look at that line call. It's worth a double look. See on the reverse angle here. Just maybe faded wide. There's confirmation from Hawkeye.
Set point for Federer and that double fault. Talk about bringing your opponent short. He did that with the slice return, Federer. And his first set point converts. 25 minutes, claims the first set, 6-2.
Does it with such casualness, doesn't he, Roger Federer?
You know he has dominated at Wimbledon, but the missing piece of the puzzle, the French Open. Tony Roach has had success at Roland Garros, so he knows all about winning on the red clay.
I think Roger Federer probably against more of a baseline like Istomin that would employ the chip backhand just to drop it short and entice him in. If he's playing a serve volley or someone that loves to come forward to the net, I think we'd see Federer come over the backhand a little bit more, get some more height, more depth on the backhand. So if I was Istomin out there and hopefully my mind was functioning, I'd say, well, you know, the times that I've come to the net, I've actually done quite okay. And if Federer is just going to try and chip my first serve back, then maybe take the opportunity to come forward. Throw in a few more serve volleys. Take your chances. Because at the moment, if he's trying to stay on the baseline and rally with Roger Federer, it's just not cutting it.
Such a solid first service game to commence the second set.
15.
Saw Dennis Istomin just check his ball toss. Cloud above, but the sun can be a problem early in the day from that end, the Swan Street end.
Wait, please. First.
It was a decent defensive lob, but Federer just silky in his movement. Istomin broke his leg in a car accident whilst travelling to a futures tournament in Tashkent, in his home city, or home city of his country, Uzbekistan, in 2001. He didn't pick up a racket in 2 years following that, so the doctors doubted he'd ever play competitive tennis again. To get to this point is quite an achievement for the 19-year-old.
Well, there's the move. Big first serve out wide to the Federer backhand, who's just chipping it. It's different if Federer starts to come over the backhand as well, then, you know, he might be able to create some winners, hit some outright winners. But if someone's just chipping it back, then you've just got to expect to play a first volley. They're not going to hit an outright winner against you.
And also, too, it makes your opponent have to play the volley. You're not playing with any pace at all off the slice. So we've seen Istomin like playing with pace at the net. Maybe it's something that Federer's picked up on. That's heavy hitting by both players. He's very suddenly made the rally non-negotiable. Federer with that forehand.
There's some heavy hitting going on in that rally there, but Federer just too much disguise.
There it is, down the line with a crunching forehand. Early break of serve in the second set for Roger Federer. And when you look at his career, Mark, he's just so grounded. You know, many of the top players suffer from burnout, I suppose, of expectation. You can see the pressure on Leighton Hewitt every time he plays here in Melbourne. I must say that maybe Roger Federer's longevity comes from his nationality, because the Swiss are very measured and balanced in the way they approach their top sportsmen and women. You know, they're a calm race. The media don't go into a frenzy, which means that, you know, this man hasn't got undue pressure on him by his home media. I suppose with all the glitz and glamour of the modern game, the two world #1s at the moment, Lindsay Davenport and Roger Federer, are very, very grounded individuals indeed.
I think what happens for both of Federer and Davenport is that they know the spotlight's on them so often. And if they play 20 weeks of the year, you know, they're always going to be feted during that week. When it's their time off, it's almost like they want to just climb into a hole and just, you know, live a normal life.
Forehand sprayed wide, so Roger Federer is in cruise control and in control. The break of serve and a 3-love lead second set. Yarra River, of course. A river that a few ex-champions have dived into. The most famous being Jim Courier, I think.
Hopefully it was the only player that dove in there. Yarra's not,
It's not
very
the
clean, is it?
I must say the players really enjoyed the relaxed atmosphere of Melbourne in January.
Happy to see that return called out. Came back so quickly onto his toes, Istomin.
Just wide. Dennis Istomin's biggest moment came in front of home fans in Tashkent, the capital of Uzbekistan, when he beat Denai Udumchok last year's Asian Championships. Errant second serve, and he's been in this position before, up 40-15, and conceded his serve in the first set. See if he can just hold his nerve here. Ambitious forehand. Suddenly it's back to deuce. Nothing can be taken for granted against Roger Federer. Well, mishit return of serve there in the world's #1. Meant that Istomin had to create his own pace off the forehand. Brings up his third game point.
Just can't believe that he's missing by the smallest of margins. Had the open court there, slight opening, went for it.
Oh, look at that for court coverage. That is absolutely superb. There's never a doubt about Federer's fitness or his movement. And that was an example of how he's in pretty good fettle.
There's another one of those little finesse backhands. You can see that maybe the court movement exposed by Istomin.
It'll float wide. Well constructed point by the Uzbek.
Again, he was baited with a couple of mid-court backhand chips by Federer. Istomin took the opportunity there to come forward.
Perfect record at the net by Federer. Not a bad conversion by Istomin by any means. Deuce. Tough volley. He's a tall man, had to pick it off the shoelaces. Another break point.
Well, it was the mid-court forehand there, just didn't do enough with it.
Deuce.
And that's about as loose as you'll see the forehand of Roger Federer.
That's a great serve there, sliding it out wide. Look, what do the players and people talk about the running forehand of Roger Federer? Haven't really seen it the bag of tricks yet. Well done, that's a little bit better there. Another serve volley. Again, if Federer is seeing that he's going to chip the backhand return, why not come in, knock the volley off?
Federer leads 3 games to 1.
So he's on the board in the second set. Federer still with a break in 3-1.
Did you see the different serving capability? Istomin basically just throwing down the first serve, hitting it with pace. Federer adding the variety of pace and spin, as well as the direction.
Just drag the backhand wide, so Federer holds to love. And really is in control in this first round encounter. Leads by a set and 4 games to 1. You talk about tactics, Mark, and perhaps the way that Istomin can mix things up. Perhaps does he look to exploit the slice a little bit more to Federer, bring him forward? That's just too heavy.
It is. But once again, he puts the first serve down to Federer, who just is quite content chipping the return. And that's where, you know, maybe he's just got to, Istomin has to react a little bit sooner to it.
Well, he teed off on the forehand. Istomin knew he had an open court, but just missed on the backhand. Suddenly, 2 break points. Federer has converted 3 from 7. Not one opportunity for Istomin in that respect. Chip charge. The target was there, but Istomin couldn't make the backhand cross court. So a second break of serve, and Roger Federer just
5 games to 4.
is in balance, in control, and looks very calm out there. 5-1 his lead. Just looking at your overall crystal ball, Mark, I know a number of people have predicted perhaps an upset in the men's draw. Are we looking at the champion here?
Not if he plays too many of those jump smashes, but you know, when you're up 6-2, 5-1, go ahead.
He had a Pete Sampras flashback there, didn't he?
You just see the subtlety there of Roger Federer, not electing to go for a big slider wide. It's just an off-pace one, even though he ended up losing the point. It's just, it's trying to prod Istomin into making errors.
Called from the chair. Linesperson unsighted.
Oof.
Well, this is the creative element of Roger Federer. Jump smash was awry, and that caught the frame.
15-40.
And the first break points to Istomin in the match.
It's long, so break of serve at the first opportunity for Dennis Istomin. He looks up to the world number one as if to say, what happened there? Tony Roach looks across, and Federer leads 5-2 second set. Dennis Istomin still down, trailing 2-5 in the second set. Match 50 minutes old. Opening match on Rod Laver Arena, day 2. Well, he's remained positive, and that's a good sign from the young man. Well, he's certainly got the tools. He can take some heart from his experience on centre court.
Well, he's only 19 and has the luxury of a little bit extra time on his side. So I think if he could commit a little bit more to improving his game, to his general overall fitness, you know, we might be seeing more of Dennis Istomin in years to come.
A number of times we've seen him generate a lead on his serve and then have it eroded away by Federer's game, and a combination of unforced errors as well. Just a little shake of the head. 23 unforced errors off the racket of Dennis Istomin. Well, he outmuscled Federer there.
40-30.
Moved three-quarter court with that backhand and really put pressure on the world number one. Brings up a hold of serve with his 7th ace. Good performance. And the crowd looking on. Peter Lebed, the coach of Dennis Istomin. Second time Roger Federer will serve the second set. This time at 5-3. All kids do a great job. Of course, many are brought from different parts of Asia as part of the exchange program, which is great to see.
And of all around Australia as well. Some of the lucky ball kids that were working at the South Australian Open that I'm involved with. What a prize to come here and work.
How about that?
But even though he lost the point, I think it's about being positive for Dennis Istomin. I mean, it's a great return. He's got Federer on the back foot. I mean, it's just turn around and say too good.
30.
I think there's been no player that's played the drive half volley better than Roger Federer. Gets him out of trouble so many times.
40.
He's raced to 3 set points. Frustration for Dennis Istomin. Well, no complacency in that service going for Roger Federer. Holding to love and taking a 2 sets to love lead after 55 minutes of this first round match.
There's a major difference there. Istomin committing 15 unforced errors, as well as Roger Federer hitting a few more winners. Some of the highlights there, having a look at that Federer forehand. Such a big weapon. It's hard to choose which side you go to against Roger Federer. You try and out-hit him with his forehand. Try and sneak into net. There's some of the brilliant drive forehand volleys there. This is a beautiful backhand pass straight down the line.
Out. 15.
Great defense from Federer, keeping himself in that rally.
15.
A couple of big shots from Istomin off the ground. Federer has the ability to frustrate you with his court coverage.
You were saying earlier, you were looking at the tournaments that Istomin has played, futures events in Uzbekistan, and some in Italy, some in Russia, back to Uzbekistan, Slovakia, that one in Bratislava. He doesn't win those events. So is this a one-match wonder for him? Is he going back there into the...
Yeah, well, he'll be back there for a little longer, but I think he's from what I've seen here, he's showing me some game. He's got some weapons. He can hop the serve. He's hit quite a few aces today. He's going to still have to spend probably another year or so, Cliff, working his way up. But I think he's got a chance to.
The real bad luck for him is that he plays Roger Federer. I mean, you know, you get into a tournament like this, you have to work so hard to get into it.
He won the Asian Championship to get the wild card to get into this.
But then to meet Federer doesn't really help you that much in terms of points.
Well, it's a nice experience, though.
Oh, that for sure. But nice if you got some dog and you got through the second round.
Federer.
Federer gets the early break here in set number 3. So
First game.
on the first two, 6-2, 6-3. Now one game to love.
Becker came back and won the tournament. He won the Australian for the second time in his career. That was sort of his last hurrah when he beat Michael Chang in the final. So he was so easy. I can't lose a guy like Patrick McEnroe. He comes back the next year and he wins the whole thing.
That's long. Was that the year you got to the semis here, by the way?
No, that was 91. No, I think I got to a third or fourth round that year.
15 all. One to Federer with the break in the third, up 2 sets.
Oh, just missed it.
The fact that Federer dominates to the extent that he does that hurt the game because there's not enough competition?
It'd be nice to see someone come up and threaten him, but it's also nice to have someone who's so dominant. I mean, when you look at Tiger Woods in golf, Roger Federer is more dominant in this sport than Tiger is in his sport, at least in the last couple of years. But it wouldn't be nice to have someone step up and beat Federer, I think, for sort of a rivalry. You know, I think Nadal was the guy that was able to hint that he might be able to do it. Roddick and Hewitt have not been able to do it in the big tournaments, in any tournaments in the last couple of years. Safin, of course, able to do it with a win here last year, but then he fell off the map in 2005.
Those years of intense rivalries actually are not that many when you think about it, because your brother John dominated for a while. Jimmy Connors dominated. Levan Lendl dominated when he was #1. Pete Sampras, obviously.
Well, you had the nice rivalries with my brother and Borg, and obviously Connors, and then Graf and Sellis or Navratilova Everett. You know, those are the things that really spark the most interest in the game, when you get a couple of great players going at it in the big stages. Sampras Agassi.
Federer sort of hinted that he's looking to the younger players to present the problems for him.
And obviously Nadal was the guy last year, and then maybe Gasquet or Gael Monfils, the 2 young Frenchmen.
Thomas Berdych.
Yep.
Andy Murray.
Andy Murray's another one you could throw in there.
The Scotsman. Game point to Federer. Federer holds. He's got 2 games to love. Talking about rivalries and domination, Martina Hingis dominated for a while, not that long, but she has decided at 25 to come back. Takes on Vera Zvonareva tonight here in Australia. You can see it live at 3:30 a.m. Tuesday morning.
Base number 8 for Istomin. He's got to take the note on that one. You can't put the pen away when your guy hits the ace. Take a note there. Accentuate the positive here.
2 games to 1.
There we go. That's it. Mark that down. Put it in pen. Roger Federer cruising in his opening round here against Dennis Istomin, up 2 sets and a break here. ESPN's college basketball doubleheader Tuesday night. Illinois, the Fighting Illini take on Indiana. A couple of Big Ten top 10 teams. That's at 7 o'clock Eastern time, 4 o'clock on the West Coast. And then down south, Kentucky takes on Georgia. Super Tuesday presented by Lexus on ESPN Tuesday night. Both games also available in high def on ESPN HD.
Roger Federer has 2 sets to none. He's got a break in the 3rd set. So his special genius has been on display, taking on Dennis Istomin of Uzbekistan, and truthfully has not been challenged that much. But it's a nice day here. As you can see, the sun is out, good weather.
30.
So you're still enjoying yourself?
Yeah, I love watching him play no matter what. And I also think, by the way, that it doesn't hurt to have a couple of easy rounds in a slam, because you've got to win 7 best-of-5 set matches over 2 weeks, and it is arduous.
You like to keep a little in reserve, particularly here when the weather can change quickly and you can get one of those Australian heat waves, and the weather can just be brutally oppressive. Doesn't sound like that's going to happen this year, though, with our long-range forecaster. It sounds like it's going to be pretty mild.
Federer leads 3 games.
History, of course, winning 3 in a year. Federer did that in 2004. Wilander, the year he got to #1. Jimmy Connors in '74.
Connors didn't win the French that year. Wilander didn't win Wimbledon. I think he got to the quarterfinals, Wilander, that year. Connors never played the French that year.
No, he wasn't able to play.
Love 15.
Second round match for Federer. Looks like this. Young Taik Lee, the Korean, or Florian Mayer from Germany. Not looking like too much resistance there.
You know, when we throw this statistical, historical stuff on the Australian Open, Patrick, I think people really need to be reminded that this is a legitimate Grand Slam. It's one of the great events on the tour calendar. But when you look at, like, the last Australian to win, Mark Edmondson, for example, frankly, in those days, it was not a huge international tournament. It was very regional.
Well, when they moved it here to Melbourne Park from the old stadium at Kooyong, sort of club atmosphere, and they changed the surface and made this incredible facility here, that's when it really started to turn around. They changed the timing of the event. It used to be right around Christmas. None of the players from America and Europe wanted to make that trip. In the late 80s, it all started to change.
Nice point. It's still a break point here for Roger Federer at 3-1 third set. But even a guy like Borg didn't come down here that much.
No, nor did my brother, nor did Connors much.
Federer gets a second break. He's got 4 games to 1. The players will change ends. They'll take a break. Federer will serve with this huge lead. 2 sets and 4-1 when we come back to the Australian Open and Rod Laver Arena. This is more than just a tennis tournament, as you can see, as evidenced by the fans here who are sitting outside enjoying the sun and watching this tennis match on a huge screen outside of Rod Laver Arena. Inside, 15-love Federer. Now 30-love Federer, 4 games to 1 and 2 sets to none. You were saying earlier that he takes on Max Mirny, provided he gets there. Obviously, he's got to win a couple of rounds first before he does that. But Max Mirny from Belarus, the number 30 seed, he played him in this warm-up tournament here in Melbourne, and played very close. Tiebreak in the third set. Big serving.
Federer against Mirny. Well, you know, Mirny will be hitting that big serve and looking to get in. You could give him a tough set. Work on the serve and volley play a little bit. Beautiful forehand volley as the wrist barely moves as Federer moves in. Watch how he keeps that wrist nice and steady. And he just moves through the ball. Such beautiful balance. 1 game away now. Well, Roche knew how to knife a couple volleys. Still does, by the way.
Great backhand volley. One of the best of all time.
Better than Edberg's. Pretty close.
Roy Emerson had a good backhand volley as well, but yeah, it's right up there.
Yeah, hello. Just a little flicker cross court. Seen too many of those brilliant passing shots from Federer, but decides to bring it out here. What'll probably be the last game, maybe one more. Oh, don't do that against Raja.
Mirka is Roger Federer's girlfriend and handles some of his PR, press relations.
Oh, come on. 30.
Federer's covered a little territory this year already. Came down to Sydney to work out with Tony Roach and then went to Doha, which he won. And then came back to Kooyong for the warm-up tournament.
Good wide serve from Istomin. Give him a game point. Flyer on that one. Third double. And the coach is going to jot that down. Not happy.
Before this match, Federer was asked about it, and he said, you know, you can't underestimate anybody, even outside the top 150 or 200, because they can be dangerous opponents. He remembers that he beat Moya when Federer was ranked 300 and Moya was 4 in the world. Istomin holds, and Federer will serve for the match when we come back to Rod Laver Arena, and this day 2 at this first slam of the year in Melbourne, Australia. It is hard to describe how pervasive tennis is during the slams in the countries in which they played. Here in Australia, for example, or in France during the French Championships, England and Great Britain during Wimbledon. But it's in the newspapers, it's on television, it is everywhere. Number 15, Federer serving for the match.
15 on. Out. 30-15.
Not a lot of stress in that camp today.
40-15.
Good little warm up for Federer on day 1. For him, hour and 23 minutes.
Okay, set finish.
Good warm-up.
Nice story of Istomin, you know, his journey to get here, and I think we'll see a little more of him, but we'll see a lot more of Federer, and it's a good way for him to get the kinks out. Very routine affair today.
Like, okay, done it again. 3-set win. Going for another slam. And then, who knows? Maybe a grand slam this year. We'll see. Roger Federer through to the second round here at the year's first slam in Melbourne.